You're live.
Perfect.
All right. Let's double check that this is all here.
Hit refresh on that.
Mm-hmm. All right.
We're live on the event.
We are live on the event. So if you guys want to go into the discussion of the event, from there you can share this to any of your platforms. If you want to take a minute and do that first before we get started.
Pin post.
Run. Cool.
Great.
All right. Well, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for doing this. This is Adrian. I'm Meredith. We're Adrian+Meredith. We have been talking to a lot of you in all these different capacities since the COVID-19 quarantine, stay at home, shelter in place, whatever it is for you, wherever you are. Some version of it has affected the music industry and has directly affected your livelihood and the way that you work and support music in the music industry. So we decided it might be time to just start gathering people together to have a conversation. We wish we could all be in person for this, but I know a lot of people out there have the same questions. So we figured we'd go live and hopefully it would provide some resources. So Adrian and I are both touring musicians. We've had multiple tours canceled and we still stare down the barrel of the future, not knowing if we should be booking our flights to Europe in the fall for tours, not knowing how we should plan ahead, all those big questions, some of which we hope to answer a little bit today. I want to go around the room and have you guys each introduce yourselves, kind of talk about, just very briefly, talk about who you are, what you do, and maybe what has happened since your shelter in place and how you have adapted and adjusted in this new atmosphere.
Right.
Nice.
Awesome. Hi, I can go first. My name is David DJ Lee. I'm a tour manager, production manager, songwriter, artist development here in Nashville, Tennessee. I also play in a band called the Magi as well. So basically, I juggle a lot of hats in music as far as on the executive side and the performance side, and kind of everything in the world's kind of come to a complete halt, obviously. So live performances, even a lot of my artists that we're planning on putting things out this spring. We've all kind of had to pause on that and kind of had to wait because this is so unknown. So for me, it's just been kind of like emotional and mental help with each other and talking through it and kind of support and, you know, letting everyone, my artists and my bandmates and people that write songs with them, you're not alone. We're all in this together. This isn't just coming after you, it's coming after everyone as far as the effects of it. So that's kind of my take on it from that side, has been kind of more like emotional support and from the pandemic.
Yeah. Jamie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Jamie Kent. I'm an artist, event producer, wear a lot of different hats. It's been a real wild dichotomy of feelings. I felt all of the feelings over the last 2 months or so. It started with I was about to throw a huge annual event during South by Southwest that I do on a riverboat, you know, spend months and months working on, and, you know, gets canceled a couple weeks beforehand. So that was a roller coaster of emotions. And then, you know, as an artist, canceling, you know, my entire spring tour as well. So it's, you know, it started off with this just sort of uncertainty of the future and wrestling with that. And then it's sort of evolved into trying to, you know, turn this pile of lemons into lemonade in some way. You know, as an artist and writer, we now have more time to create and less pressure pulling us away from creation, so that we can really just spend some time trying to make the best music we've ever made. And as an artist trying to live stream, the challenge of trying to do something different too, because literally everyone and their mother is doing this right now. So you have to think creative and you have to do it different, just like you would a show. If you play the same show as your album, people are going to come once or twice, but after that, you know, it might get boring. So you got to constantly be innovating in that way. And that's a fun challenge. It's a scary challenge when that's it, but it's still a little fun at the same time.
Yeah. What about you, Lara?
My name is Lara. I'm a booking agent with Fleming Artists. And yeah, being an agent is quite an interesting situation right now. We were talking about what the definition of unemployment is. And if it means that we're not working, I'm certainly not unemployed. But if it means making money, then yes, I'm unemployed. What's really interesting about being an agent is that, you know, our livelihood and the way that we work is 6 to 12 months in advance, as I'm sure Ian will tell you as well with festival production. But it's realizing that the last 6 months work is now nil, and then figuring out how we predict the future to see if we're going to make any money in the next 6 to 12. It's also redefining my definition of what an agent is, because I still feel very responsible for my artists and their careers, their touring careers. And we have to figure out what we can provide for them in this time, because nobody's doing any live shows in person. And I, you know, personally don't feel like that's going to be changing anytime soon. And really interesting conversation is how we move forward when states are opening up one at a time, when safety concerns are different. And we have to decide with our artists personally and with each venue personally, how to proceed, how many people are allowed in a room, whether the venue is going to be able to even be profitable or not. So it's, yes, my job has completely changed in the last 2 months or so. And we're just trying to stay on top of it and trying to figure out what we can provide for our artists as an agency. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
By the way, that's a great question. So we wrote that one down as maybe to revisit.
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. All right. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, hi, Jim Voelz, Mom&Pop Productions, People's Brewing Company. I'm a booking agent, promoter, artist. So I've kind of seen every angle of this situation, and kind of touching on what Laura was saying, you know, trying to figure out how to proceed when you're booking a national tour, when every state is a different situation. In some states, it's even per county. So trying to figure out how you're going to navigate around something like this is, you know, it's a job unto itself, you know, just in discussing with venues and other promoters and other bands, you know, what's going on in Ohio, what's going on in Michigan. It seems to be different everywhere. And then, you know, taking into consideration safety, you know, that's a big concern for all the venues that I work for, all the artists that I work for. And, you know, it's like from a promoter's perspective, what do I do in Lafayette? I live in Indiana. You know, Lafayette, Tippecanoe County, where I'm at, has been minimally impacted by this. Yet, you know, 2 counties away, we've seen the worst outbreak in the state. So, you know, oh, well, I can proceed and maybe have limited events here, but then what does that mean for people that can travel here? What does that mean for bands in impacted areas that can see an opportunity and come here and play a show? But am I putting my customers at risk by having a band from Chicago come here and play? There's a lot of stuff, and the frustrating part has been mostly trying to figure out, you know, what am I going to do when I'm really not getting any kind of guidance from local or state leaders?
Right.
Yeah. 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 That's a whole nother one.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, Ian.
Hi, Ian Thomson with Milo Music Festival and Adrian+Meredith. I'm here in Appleton, Wisconsin. Milo Music is a festival that takes place this year July 31st through August 2nd. But typically first weekend in August, we do about 200 artists playing close to 900 sets, all original music. Also throughout the year, we do other Mile Music Presents shows. So that's kind of been, the focus and the challenge through all of this for me. Definitely an emotional roller coaster, like all of you as well. What goes into that festival is being so large. It takes a full year to put on, to produce, and snap together. So definitely a lot of emotion on that side, as well as the other shows that we're working on. We do a Wednesday night series in the fall, winter and spring, called Rhythms and Brews. It's all listening room. We saw the March and April of that cancel. Then in May, we typically go outdoors for a full band concert series called Concerts in the Courtyard. That is all coming apart now too. So yeah, just a lot of these different challenges. And then, on Adrian+Meredith's side, obviously tours are evaporated, and, still looking at the live stream portion of it to get that out there and start promoting that as well.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. So I'm just going to kind of open it up to a couple questions that I know have kind of come across our plate, and things that we've been thinking about. And you can all jump in as best as possible to try to just have an organic conversation about it. But I think really where I kind of want to start is kind of looking at that question of when will things open back up, and what does that even look like? Obviously, there's a lot of different levels and phases and stages of what opening up means. But in the music world, both from a venue side and also a lot of, independent artists, a lot of artists out there that are doing their own booking, should they be reaching out to venues in the fall? Everyone is like afraid without that leadership on a big state or national level. We're competitive in nature. We don't want to miss out on our October shows if things happen to go, so those are some of the things that I think a lot of artists are thinking about, but I'm sure that there's a lot of venues out there too, not wanting to cancel things too far in advance. How do you make that call, and what process are each of you using right now to think through some of those big decisions?
I mean, I can speak from an agency perspective, and I find it interesting because I'm pretty sure Ian and I have differing opinions on this, because Mile Music hasn't canceled yet. But I think before I joined Fleming, I ran my own boutique agency, and I worked with a lot of up and coming artists, and we still have some developing artists on Fleming's roster as well. So to your point of people without an agent, strikes a chord with me. One of the things that I've been noticing, and I see both sides of this, is that with these venues, even with the idea, the general consensus is that maybe by September or October, but in March, we said the general consensus was June. So get back to me in a month and it'll probably be January, who knows. But right now, kind of the general consensus is that things in September and October are not falling by the wayside yet. But they're all reschedules at this point. If you didn't have a show on the books already, these venues are just completely overloaded with all of the people that did not get to play between March and September. And they're just coming in every day. So the problem that I'm seeing is, on top of that there are actually no dates left right now for the last quarter of 2020. Venues are having to make the hard decision to not take developing artists that don't have proven track records in that market or at that venue. That sucks, honestly. And there are so many great artists out there that can sell those tickets that maybe haven't played there before, but have a great social following, or, they can fill those rooms, but the venues can't take chances right now. And I get it from their perspective, because these venues are on budgets that may not make it. I have a lot of venues coming back to me right now trying to renegotiate contracts with guarantees. Everybody's having to move to door deals. And we understand that as an agency, especially with, I'm not going to name names of ticket companies or anything, but there's a lot of sketchiness happening with returning tickets and also returning deposits. There are a lot of agencies out there that are trying to keep the deposits for canceled or rescheduled shows, and it's spooking the venues, completely understandably so. But I would say if I was an up and coming artist without an agent that had not booked dates already in the fall, certainly try, but the success rate, even as an agent, is not good right now. The conversation that we've had with most of our artists is 2021, and we need to get on that now, because that's where it is. And even worse than that, a lot of the venues are not willing to put out offers right now. We have a lot of artists that we've got confirmed dates on the books without offers.
Right.
The venues just they don't know, and we understand that, and that's as far as we can go with it. So in the reality, it's just a huge unknown, and understandably so, a lot of venues are not willing to move forward right now.
There's a lot of powerful things in what you just said about just the collapse, not the full collapse, but just the compression of the industry, and just how it's going to trim a lot of, for lack of a better term, trim the fat.
Well, and also what I want, Laura, what I was thinking about when you were talking is that on the next level of the biggest issue of all of this is, even if it all goes away, what if all these venues have to next month cut their capacity in half, which would affect the door deal, which would affect the amount of people, which would affect the ROI on the actual leaving your house and going to play this show.
The math.
Even if you're an artist that's playing 1,000 cap rooms, you need 800 tickets to make the show make sense.
Right.
500 is not going to cut it.
500 isn't going to make even those artists. So even for young, that's what I was telling my artists who none of my artists are working 1,000 cap rooms. But I was like, even if you were, you're still in a situation right now that makes you go, So like Laura said, I mean, 2021 is probably more realistic because you don't even know, okay, you can do outdoor shows for this. It's just there's so many variables that seems,
And what Jim was saying earlier about per county, I mean, the first thing that I think about, and Jamie and I were going to do a show this July about just playing out in a farm this July, that kind of solves two of the birds with one stone, but not all the birds, and so, venue spaces itself are a whole nother concept, our clubs, mid-sized clubs may be going away, but house concerts and smaller venues may not be, and field parties might be going back up,
Yeah, I think this provides an opportunity for smaller artists before bigger artists. And it's a trade-off because bigger artists probably have more money saved in the bank from bigger guarantees and bigger merch sales and can probably tap into higher live stream events and make more money from them than the smaller artists anyway. But there's going to be this time frame where, as it rolled down, it went festivals, amphitheaters, large venues, medium venues, small venues, private events, right? So it's going to roll back the other way, and there's going to be 2 or 3 months where a smaller medium venue can't operate, but house concerts can, and where you might be able to go in and rent a hall of a VFW that holds 50 people for $75 and go and play that. So there's opportunities to get creative if you can promote and sell your own tickets for 50 people, and you can charge $20, $25 and still make a living that way. Some people can't. If you're rolling in with a bus, that's not an option for you. But hopefully if you're rolling in with a bus, then you're on a label with an advance and you have a little bit of time to sit and create because you have support that way.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll kind of take that one step further and asking kind of Ian and Jim, from a venue and an event side of everything, do you feel like there is, a responsibility in some ways? At what point is it what Jamie's saying of like, yeah, get creative. If you can do it, go and do it. And from an organization standpoint, what is the health and safety responsibility on that level? And kind of what guidelines are you both looking at? Obviously, you're just looking at your own state and maybe your own local ordinances, whereas artists, well, if Texas opens up, maybe we can go to Texas, but from you guys, kind of, how are you looking at that from a just very practical and kind of legal standpoint?
Jim.
Well, I would say, for me, like I promoted a lot of smaller venues, and in looking at like what could potentially be, I mean, right now, no one knows anything and everything is speculation. In fact, our governor is going to talk here in about an hour about whether or not the stay shelter in place is going to continue through May. I know a lot of states around us have already implemented that, saying into June. The county health department has said cancel all large gatherings, which is 10 people or more,
Right.
till the end of June,
Right.
unless the state says otherwise. So, I mean, what we're dealing with here, which has been frustrating, has been the CDC says one thing, the executive branch says one thing, the state says one thing, the city says one thing, the county says one thing. Sometimes they don't all match, and
Right.
so really you're kind of like you just have to make good decisions on your own, responsible decisions. For me, for some of the things I've heard, reduce the capacity by half, reduce the capacity by 25%. And so in smaller venues, you're going from 150 or 100 to 50, and then you want to still book the same bands, but can you, with those limited resources in smaller venues, can you even enforce social distancing? All the clubs and all the small places I book, they're fun because they're small. There's a vibe. When you're talking about giant theaters, like you guys were saying before, 1,000 people, you need 1,000 people. Otherwise the show looks and feels like there's no one there. It's empty, put 200 people in a 1,000 capacity room. It just it doesn't feel good, And so in smaller venues, you can have less people, but they still feel full. I think everybody wants that feeling of fullness. So there's just lots of difficult decisions to be made. And for me, it's like my personal health. Would I want to go work a door 2 weeks from now and stand there and check IDs and take money? I'm not sure I would even feel comfortable doing that. So would I put others in that situation?
Right. You brought up an interesting thought that we haven't even discussed yet is, with 1 million people out on the Florida beaches right now, I mean, you're totally right that nobody can stop anything. And with everybody saying something different, it kind of just gets left to the general public to do whatever they feel comfortable with. Part of that is security. You consider bulking up security at events. I mean, is that an extra cost? Is there extra cost because of all this too?
I mean, we all know what it's like to work in this industry, and we all know how kind of loose it can be at shows. You're talking about trying to make sure everybody's safe. Think about how that is without a pandemic. Think about how difficult it is to explain to a drunk person that, they can't stand on the table. And now you're factoring in, everybody's like general health. I don't have answers for it.
Right.
Sure.
These are just things that go through my mind. But and going into what Jame was saying, maybe this is opportunity for some of those smaller artists, because it takes a lot to get a big band to move. You're talking about agents, you're talking about touring managers, you're talking about road hands, you're talking about bus drivers, you're talking about crews, you're talking about unions.
Also, let me stop you real quick, Jim. Are you talking about grossing bands in terms of big or small bands, or are you talking about an 8-piece band versus a duo?
I'm both. I'm talking about both, so there might be opportunity for smaller bands because, like for my band, if somebody called me, I could go tomorrow and play a show. But there's a lot of things that factor in once you get into mid-tier large touring acts, it takes a lot for those bands to move. And when you look at tours that have canceled or rescheduled, I guess no one's saying canceled right now, but rescheduled or postponed, you know, a lot of those big tours are already saying 2021. You know, it takes a lot of planning to get a tour to go. I mean, you all know that. And the larger they are, the more work that is involved and the more people that are involved. So if you're representing yourself, there might be some opportunity in that. I'm just trying to be positive after all the negative stuff I said.
Yeah.
Love it. Where are you, Jim? Where are you? What state are you in?
I'm in Indiana.
Indiana, that's right.
Central Indiana. Yep.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Jim too. You know, there's so much different information that's kind of all over the place right now, and all depending on where you live too, right? You know, because we stay in touch with the city health and the county health. So what does that mean for us going forward? You know, because when we get, you know, from the state of Wisconsin, if they have a phased in plan, but even if we were to do 50 people at some point, and we don't know when that point is going to be, you know, we just have to think about the safety and security of everyone, and also what does it look like from an artist standpoint? You know, if you have, and that was a good point, Adrian, when you have, let's say, an 8-piece band, and your allowed gathering cap now is, say, 25 people, depending on the size of the room. Does it make sense for a venue to still move forward with a show where, you know, 8 of that 25 is on stage?
Yeah. Right.
I do artist development for a girl who's one of 7 kids, and she was saying, so if they allow 10 people, she's like, I can invite one friend over to their house because there's 9 people in the family.
Yeah.
I think another thing just to add on to the pile, and it's something that I feel like large events probably aren't going to talk about first, because everybody is going to, rightfully so, talk about the health concerns. But beyond that, there's a whole side of it where most festivals and large-scale tours and large-scale events have sponsorships. And it becomes a liability for the sponsors if they're the new ground zero of a second wave or something happens like that. And nobody wants to touch that liability. And so at what point,
the news.
right. So at what point will the sponsors say it's okay? And when that happens, that probably gives them a little bit more, you know, once that conservative money has said, yes, it's okay, that's probably when people will start to say, okay, it's okay. But I just, you know, that there's going to be companies that are going to chance it more than others. And, you know, a few of the ones I work with aren't those companies. So that's something, you know, I've been mindful of and talking with constantly.
So half of the people on this call are from the state of Tennessee, which is now open. You know, I've had general discussions with people about how in 2 weeks we're going to know more. With a phased out approach, especially in what Lara was talking about, certain states opening, or a lot of you guys are talking about, certain states opening separately, differently, first, second, counties opening certain times. You know, would you guys consider right now? Would you consider booking anything in the state of Tennessee right now? It's open for business in theory.
I mean, none of my artists are going out.
Right.
I know that much, but I mean, it's just because we do weekly Zoom calls with them. So we're really checking in with our artists every week. And I think the general consensus is at least a couple months. And I know we're going to get into this later, but we as an agency actually developed a virtual roster because we see this as something that our artists are going to have to be at home for a little bit, but even more than that, in the future, it's a way to supplement income doing a virtual tier of a show. So we're just actively working on that as much for the continued income of our artists as the safety of our artists. And I know, just like you said about sponsors and companies, artists are not willing to be the people that played that show that got everybody sick. I mean, we saw that article where somebody had a choir meeting and then 10 people died. or whatever it was. And I'm sure none of my artists want that on their heads, but I would assume artists in general do not want to be the reason that people gathered and created another outbreak. So I know for sure our artists are sticking tight, at least right now.
Laura, can you elaborate on the virtual roster? That's intriguing to me, and I haven't heard of that yet. So I'm just curious what that means as an agency.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys wanted to talk about live streaming later. So
this is like a perfect segue, because kind of where I wanted to go next is like, I think we can all agree that we don't know what's coming down the line, but you know, longest term is, you know, we're looking at potentially a vaccine or something like that, where people start to feel more confident in any capacity to start attending live shows. So with that, what can we do in the interim? What are people doing in the interim? What innovations are out there right now that people are coming up with, thinking what is working, what isn't working? How can we support not just the artists, but also this entire industry that surrounds the artists to keep moving forward during this time where basically life as we know it isn't the same?
Yeah. So Lara, you were continuing.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's a big question.
Yeah.
So what we did was
that, I mean, if you can explain your virtual roster, that would be awesome.
What we noticed is, you know, at first it was the huge outpouring of support and charity, donations, tips, Facebook, free stuff, everybody, everywhere, feel good, freak out, whatever. But that has its limits. And a lot of our artists are already experiencing, as I'm sure a lot of you are, the decrease in donations. And that has that's a lot of factors there. People are seeing the unemployment checks not coming in. You're whopping $1,200 a person. That's supposed to cover you for more than 4 days in New York, etc. So we, as an agency, like I stated before, our jobs are to help our artists with live shows, right? That's the definition of what a booking agent does, is we book shows. So we as an agency tried to determine how we could make that something different right now. And what we came up with is one of the ways that our artists can continue to make money. Not only that, but it really supports the ecosystem, which we are in an ecosystem. And it really bothers me when agencies are playing hardball and not returning deposits, or, you know, freaking the venues out or freaking us out and not playing ball, because it's an ecosystem. And if one goes down, we all go down. It's just, that's the way that it works. So it's not a time to really be selfish, because that's not even self-serving in the end. Soapbox moment, but I'll come back from that. So a way that we figured we could incorporate the venues again is starting to develop partnerships with ticketed private shows behind a paywall that will eventually help artists and venues stay afloat, even if it's at a small percentage of what they would make for the live shows, because you're not selling beer, you're not selling food, you're not getting all of that extra income, but it's something. So we approached our artists and we said, you know, if we can start speaking with venues and getting them the help that they need to get online, to understand what it would be like to sponsor a stay-at-home show, what that means. And then help our artists also set up properly for their at-home shows. Because when we're speaking with venues about sponsoring at-home shows, they don't have any quality control. They don't know what audio you're using. They don't know if you're gonna come in and be in a stairwell, you know, or your backyard, or not have internet and halfway through not be able to stream through. So we spoke with our artists, and we offered them all the opportunity to be officially virtually represented by us. And what that means is you can go to flemingartist.com, and we now have a section called virtual shows on there. And we provide the venues with an example of what the at-home setup looks like. And we're also working with our artists to make sure that it's as professional as possible. And that has actually been a lot of artist-to-artist collaboration on our roster. It's really cool to see. The Accidentals are a really great example. They have tech geniuses in that band, and she wrote a 23-page document about OBS and shared it around, and everybody's been kind of helping everybody with the professional nature. But that's what we're providing for them. And then we're starting the conversations with the venues that we have good relationships with, and basically saying, look, our artists have mailing lists. And like I think Jame said, we're going to wear them out because those are the same people. And if you play 7 shows in a week, you're telling the same people that you're playing 7 pretty identical shows in a week. And you can, you know, if you have 1,000 songs in your repertoire, eventually you're going to play one again. So what we're talking with the venues about is to get them to share to their mailing lists, which I'm sure as all of you guys, like with your developing artists, that's the craziest thing you ever heard, right? The venues are the ones that are responsible for promotion and you play the show. That's what we all wish would happen, right? So what we're proposing is that the venues take a percentage of the ticket sales, but really the promotion is on them. They have huge mailing lists. There are some venues that have 50,000 plus people on their mailing list that they can reach out to. And those are not people that are necessarily on the artist's mailing list. So it doesn't wear out the artist's mailing list. And it also provides the venue some extra income. And it also provides the venue's mailing list with something to do, because you can put varied artists on those shows every week. So that's currently what we're offering with our artists, but we're developing it every week and just trying to provide as much as we possibly can. The other thing that we're thinking of too is, like I said, even when we're allowed to go back outside with these venue restrictions on the capacities, there are a lot of venues that are really worried about overhead and profitability. So we are thinking that live streams will be something that can be provided as extra revenue for venues. So you are playing the live show, you have whatever, the 20 people, the 40 people in the room, but you can offer a virtual tier to those in the vulnerable population that don't want to go out, those that don't feel like it's safe to go out, or those that couldn't get a ticket because there are only 40 people allowed in the room. And we share that with the venue as well. And so that helps the sustainability of the venue, and hopefully will even allow them to feel comfortable to open their doors with that additional income coming in. So that's kind of what we're doing.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it could be a complete bust or it could be genius. We have no idea yet, but
I'm genuinely curious whether like the venues list will transfer to artists and like how that will bump up. You know, if they normally have 200 people tuning into a live stream, will they have 250 now? Will they have 500? Will it be the same? I'm just curious. It's all changing so quickly. That's really interesting to me.
Yeah, our person was like, okay, we need to figure out the estimated commission for this, and I was like, I have literally no idea what estimated commission we're gonna get. I was like, this one venue said that they're basically bringing anywhere from 500 to 4,000, and it's like a ticket range and like all this. So we were like, I don't even have a best estimate. Like, who knows? So I will let you know when this stuff actually starts happening a little more.
Yeah. No, what I was gonna say was that there's a venue in Kansas City. You guys are probably familiar with it, called Knuckleheads.
Yep.
Yeah.
They have always, like not always, but for the last several years, my band's been playing there. Do a live stream with their shows. So I feel like there's a lot of venues that kind of are like would respond well to what you're talking about, Laura, and like they're kind of almost already set up. And if they had someone that was like, okay, this is how we're going to do X, Y, and Z, it wouldn't be that hard for them. You know, even like some venues that have like stages and they broadcast to the front lobby of the venue and stuff like that. You know, I think some of these venues might be set up for it. So you might be genius. You might be a pioneer.
Hey, thanks.
Jim, I know that like we're doing something with you this next week, you know, that you've kind of, you know, People's Brewing has kind of been doing sort of hosting these virtual shows, these Facebook Live shows. How have you seen that going? Do you feel like the artists are seeing an increase in views and in any sort of revenue?
Yeah, so we just did our second one this week. And so it's really hard to ascertain, you know, what impact it's having. But, you know, for me, you know, I've kind of toiled over, the streaming side of things. I'm a live venue promoter. I'm a live events promoter. I've always had mixed feelings about streaming stuff. I want people to come to my shows.
Yeah.
So this has kind of been, I've been reluctant to do it, but know that now it's kind of, I have to. We don't want to see any momentum that we've created just kind of die. So we're trying to work with artists, kind of like what Laura was saying. We don't want to see stagnation. All the artists that I know don't want to see stagnation. What are we going to do? And I think that so far it's worked out where we're kind of just swapping, people's awareness of each other. So we see a lot of artists, fans coming through our pages, and we see a lot of our like regulars, people that used to come to the brewery, for instance, every week. They're hopping on there and they're tipping and they're buying merch. So the feedback that I have gotten from the artists so far is they are selling merch, which I think is super important. To be able to still be selling merch at this time. I know my band has traditionally only ever sold merch at a show, where we're getting in front of people and people are like, oh, wow, I really enjoyed myself. I want a CD, or I want a shirt, or I want a sticker. We almost never see online sales. Now that has changed in the past month, but so I think moving forward, my goals would be to increase production, make it better. Again, like what Lara was saying, having a little bit more control, because as of right now, it's really, what does Adrian and Meredith have at home? What are they going to be using to stream? What's it going to sound like? What's it going to look like?
Those things are not in your control as much anymore.
Yeah. And so I hope that as we start phasing into being able to start opening things up, I'm not sure if we'll actually have people in the venue spaces, but my goal is I've been messing around with tracking. We recently purchased a new PA system, and it's a digital format. It's a Midas, and I have been able to mess around at home, recording, tracking. So I'm hoping that once we can have a limited amount of people in the venues, we can actually have bands in there where we can record it, we can film it, maybe possibly stream it. I got to see what that's going to look and sound like. But then I also want to, in some way, sponsor these shows being released, whether it's on YouTube or Bandcamp or something like that. I know there's a lot of organizations that already do stuff like that, but I would like to see it happen here with us on a local level, and do some kind of revenue sharing with the bands. Just to keep things moving and interesting. So
yeah, Ian.
Just two quick questions. Like what do we feel is the saturation point of the live streams? How much is too much? How much is, what's too little? Then also, is there data being collected or, consumed by like how many people are tuning into these streams? Then, what's your average audience then going to be moving forward to start gauging how you can get into those markets? I'm going to pick on you, Jame, really just for a moment here. So Jame just recently did a live stream in Appleton with a venue, and I think you were getting like 55, 60 people on that. Jame typically could come to Appleton and sell almost 300 tickets. So, when you're going into another market, I guess, what would you be looking for in terms, and then also what's that, data? So when you're talking to promoters, you're now saying, hey, my artist can do, an average of 50 people on a stream or 100 or, whatever.
Yeah, I think data is something that's really important in this, and then it's determining what's the most important data too. that was like, yeah, to me, I'm all about experimenting right now and trying the different things and trying the different formats. And just like we tried this past weekend doing an Appleton exclusive show, because I wanted to see, could I sell tickets to one specific area versus just doing it in general. And the data to me, it just keeps coming back to like engagement rules over just views and impressions. The big telethon we did a few weeks back was really enlightening to me on that front. Because
speak to that, Jame, because I don't think everybody here knows about the telethon that you did.
So it was called People Supporting Artists Telethon. We had 44 artists ranging from Roseanne Cash to Keb Mo, Los Lobos. It was old school throwback style, like Jerry Lewis telethon meets Wayne's World public access, super weird, super off the wall. We wanted to be really engaging, have a couple songs, then a skit, a couple songs, then a circus performer. But the challenge for us was that we were a group of people that created a nonprofit that didn't exist 2 weeks before that. We had no social channels whatsoever. How do we get this out to a lot of people? So one of the things that was brand new on Facebook that I really doubled down on is this thing called cross-posting, where you set up a relationship between pages beforehand, and the video has to be coming from a third party. It can't be mobile generated. So it has to be coming from a webcam or a studio or an OBS kind of thing. And it allows the live stream content to appear live on multiple pages simultaneously. So it's not sharing it, it's live on both pages. And we had 50 different pages set up to cross post at once, ranging from Wrangler with 2 million followers to each artist. And I genuinely had no idea what to expect. Because I was like, I know when I go live, it drives the algorithm way higher than if I were to share something. And I get way more engagement. I was like, if it's that on everyone, we're gonna break the internet. And it's not quite that. And I've noticed that too. So it sort of fell somewhere in between. We had 250,000 people view it, which is still fantastic. But as I dove deeper into the numbers, I was like, how long are people watching for? What are these people? Okay, so Wrangler obviously had the biggest impact in terms of numbers at one time, but did they watch the longest? No, they didn't. They watched the shortest. Keb Mo's fans watched the longest. What kind of fans does he have? Why are they watching longer if he only played one song? So you get deeper and deeper into it, and you have to figure out these things. They're like, who is that fan on the internet that's going to buy merch, that's going to stay for the concert, that's not just popping in and popping out? And I don't know that I don't have any answers quite yet, but I know that one thing I've seen that is curious to me is that coming through these third-party things like OBS, it looks better. You have a frame around it, you have information, and the viewers are usually smaller. And I think that it hits the algorithm of these social channels in a weird way, where I see people with 5,000 followers with 12 viewers when it's coming through OBS, versus if they go direct on their phone to Facebook, 100 followers. So it's like that. I don't know that that's for certain, but I see it multiple times, and that's just observations at this point.
Yeah,
and that's something that we've seen too. We are kind of trying to analyze what is the Facebook Live, what does it mean, and we've been looking at that for a while, and the average person will watch your video for 3 seconds, and that is just crazy to think about. And so, are we chasing numbers in terms of how many people viewed it, or are we chasing numbers in terms of retention? And so, like, when we're looking at our live videos, it goes from 300 starting out to 20. But then, the brewery was looking at it, the owner at People's, and he was he was like, these numbers are insane. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, the average person, the average view for this video was 45 minutes, which, you know, that's just not heard of for the Facebook Live. It's like I said, if they're going to watch for 3 seconds, and then if they watch for 3 seconds, they're going to stay for 10 seconds. And then after that, it just goes down by half, you know? So while we're not seeing huge numbers stay, the people that do stay are almost watching the entire video.
Right.
So, but again, we've only done 2, so.
And I'm going to throw my opinion in the ring here too on that, because that's something that, especially with the virtual shows and everything we've been discussing a lot, is what Jim Fleming likes to call protection of value for our artists. And it's the same as if you didn't pay for a yoga class versus if you paid for a yoga class, you're much more likely to show up if you paid for it. And you're much more likely to stay, right? So I think the basic question that we were coming up with is what do fans need right now? Because yeah, we can see fans as a commodity. We can see them as them giving artists money, and that's what everybody needs. But also, what do they need from us that's going to make that interaction something that is as happy for both people? And if you only have that $1,200 coming in, what makes them give $5, $10, $20 to your artist or to you? That's going to make them feel like it was worth it for them. And it was worth it for them, because that's very important for an artist relationship with their fans, to maintain that positive interaction and include money in it so everybody can eat. So what we're seeing a lot is that they need connection. They love these Zoom meetings when they're talking to their friends. They're doing cocktail hours. Something that, you know, we're mainly an Americana folk singer-songwriter agency. So we have a lot of people on our roster that have very important things to say. We just had Tom Paxton did an impromptu song challenge for a few of our artists last week on the Zoom meet, and we do it every Thursday. And yesterday we had 6 artists come on and play just pieces or whole songs that they wrote around this song challenge. And even as an agent and a musician, I'm a musician and a songwriter myself, listening to this reminded me exactly of why it's so important that artists continue to be creating, but also to reach out to their fans and connecting with their fans. Because, I mean, one of them made me cry. One of them, it makes you think, it makes you feel human. But when you're going on Facebook Live, and it's great to have 500,000 people watching, but there's no connection there. That's consumption. That's a person looking at a screen. What we're hoping to find behind this paywall is that it cuts down to the people that really want to be there. And then we can find an interactive way of doing it. We're working with a platform right now. We're trying to partner with them, and they're using YouTube and Zoom as their main options, because Zoom is obviously very interactive, but YouTube at least has a chat. And so we're encouraging our artists to make sure that they are interacting with the chats, with the Zooms. They're doing Q&A at the end. They're taking questions, they're taking requests, because that's what fans need right now. They need to feel human, and they need to feel connected to the artists, these people that they're looking to answers and catalysts, emotional catalysts. But I really do believe that a paywall is important for that. So that people are sticking around and feel like they're actually getting their money's worth, because it really should be about that. You know, a free show is less valued than a $5 show.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, DJ, do you have any, not total final remarks, but anything to add to this?
No, I think this is all a good conversation. And I know that if we're going to find the answers, and you got to ask the questions. So, you know, I'm fascinated by the same question Ian had with, at what point is it oversaturation? But I guess I can have that argument about music and artists in general, you know what I mean? With SoundCloud and Spotify, you know, it's like, what point should some of us take a break and say, okay, we'll come back. We'll see you guys in 6 months. You know, that's a question that I ask myself a lot. Ask myself a lot, but I think this conversation has been great. And I'm rooting for, you know, the music community, especially the indie DIY, you know, build your own house music community to win, you know, and not just win, but like not let because a lot of people, peers of mine who work for giant acts who are just kind of waiting because that's what they do. But there's other people who are like, I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to go, be a lawyer. I'm going to go get out of music, So this is going to, like you said, it's going to kind of weed out those who aren't dumb enough to stick around.
What you said, DJ, is totally right, and I put down from Lara's comment earlier that this totally is an ecosystem. The grassroots thing is why you guys are all here, and I do want to say thank you guys so much for all joining, especially the first one, because I do think that even though the folk alliances and the Americana Fests and the IBMAs are also doing their live streams, and I encourage everybody to go check that out as well. I do think that the grassroots followings and the grassroots artists and these smaller organizations do need to kind of work together in this time. And I do appreciate all of you guys joining this to start thinking about that too.
Yeah. Does anyone have any final things that they want to add?
Thanks for having us. This is a great idea.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
I'm gonna stalk all you guys on social media, so look for
everybody connect, and I would be very interested in keeping this going in some capacity. I think it's good to just talk and hear what everybody's going through and all the different perspectives, and I know I've learned a lot from this already. And some of the issues that have been, some of the questions that have come up are just very intriguing to me, and we're kind of at the forefront of a new frontier. Talking about paywalls and it's not about how many people can I bring to a venue, but how many people are going to watch me on a screen.
Right.
It's very interesting to think about. So I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and thank you.
Ian,
DJ.
Real quick. Two things. One, we can definitely email on the thread that Meredith started, in that thread. And two, I've actually seen some advertising on these Zooms, like banners in the background. I've seen some companies advertising virtually already. So that's another thought, the stages at festivals. So
in terms of sponsorship.
Tito's in the background or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's great. Ian, did you have any final remarks?
Yeah, I was just saying, thanks again for everybody for jumping in on this. I don't think, throughout this, it certainly has been a weird year the last few months. So, I've never felt more socially connected, even though we're physically distanced. But through platforms such as this and everything that the industry has been doing, there does seem to be some unity happening, and which is really amazing to see, and it's refreshing. So, every day I'm on the phone or on the chat with someone, and just keep sending the love and keep each other up and keep championing each other.
Thank you. Jame, Lara, do either of you have a final sentiment at all?
I think that it's important to share little tidbits, because I'm learning little tidbits every week and different things, and a new platform comes out or a new technology changes or something. I think it's important to all share them, because we're all in it together. Like you said, rising tide lifts all ships. And and I've got a pandemic pajama live stream tonight if you guys want to tune in.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah.
One more quick thing. Speaking of live stream, Folk Alliance International did a really cool panel. I believe it was on Tuesday. The YouTube clip is out there. It's an hour long. I'll post it in the thread for this event for everybody on Facebook to check it out.
Awesome.
But yeah, well worth it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, Lara, did you have anything or?
I'm just happy you did this. I think it's really great to get information out to the DIY artists. I think that's super important, because they're not having these conference calls every day like we are, and they're not talking all the venues every day like we are. So thank you for making sure that they get the information as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your perspective, all of your perspectives. Thank you so much for being up for this. This is our first time doing it. So we, as all of us, are learning as we go, but just to gather everyone to have the conversation has been really helpful for me. I think we've all learned some stuff just on this panel, and hopefully everyone watching live, and also people that will watch this video after we repost it, we'll hopefully learn some stuff. I'm going to make sure that all of your information gets posted in the Facebook event so that if anyone wants to follow up with you directly, they can. I hope that all of us stay connected as well. We can do that over email or Facebook. We are going to be doing this every Friday at noon Central Time in May. So every Friday in May. Next week, we're going to kind of be putting together a panel, financial resources, healthcare resources, mental health resources, both artists and industry, what is going on and where some of those relief resources might be and how to find them, how to get them, how to apply for them. After that, we might be talking about content release. Should albums come out? Should they not? Singles, releases, content. That'll be the week after that. The final week, we'll see how it goes. But right now, I'm thinking it might be a creative one. I'm talking about creation during COVID-19 and the struggles with being creative. When all creatives are so empathetic, it's not always the most inspiring time. So how to stay creative and keeping your craft alive. So that will be every Friday in May. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you so much for jumping on this panel. I'm going to go off live now.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
All right, I gotta go, guys, but I appreciate all of you, and please stay